Hi, I'm Matt Elkton from Wildlife Control Supplies Canada, and we're going to be going over the Belisle Foot Snares today. These are the Belisle Foot Snare systems. This is the 12-inch bear foot snare. This is the 8-inch wolf and cougar foot snare. This is the 6-inch fox and coyote foot snare, and this is the stainless steel version of the fox and coyote foot snare. We'll go over how to use them a little bit later, and we'll mainly focus on the 6-inch Belisle Foot Snare. We're just going to go over the basic parts of the Belisle Foot Snare. This is the foot snare. This is the dog. This is the safety. This is the pan tensioning bolt. This is the pan. This is the working jaw. This is the free jaw. This is the trap setting block. And these are the springs of the trap. This is the stainless steel version of the Belisle Foot Snare. It has all the same parts. We like it more because it doesn't have to be dyed. This is the snare cable for the 6-inch Belisle Foot Snare. This is a galvanized cable. It is 1/8 diameter, and we prefer this cable as it doesn't do as much damage to the foot of the animal caught. The 8 and 12-inch versions have a larger loop size cable. This is the snare cable for the stainless steel version of the Belisle Foot Snare. It is 3/32 stainless steel cable. And this is the anchor system we use with the Belisle Foot Snare. There is a 24-inch version for coyotes and a 30-inch version for the wolf anchors. For our company, when we're using the Belisle Foot Snare, we prefer to use the stainless steel version of the Belisle Foot Snare as it takes less maintenance and doesn't need to be dyed. We also prefer the 1/8 diameter galvanized cable, snare cable, and we use the 24-inch anchor trapping when we're trapping coyotes. Before heading to the field with the Belisle Foot Snare, there's 4 main modifications that need to be done. We also double check the crimps are well done on the anchor and the foot snare. The modifications we do are filing the dog back to a sharp edge so it's easier to set. We also file the pan square in here so it sets off easier. We also file off any sharp edges on the trap, and we also adjust the pan tension to 3 or 4 pounds for coyote. If you're using the steel version of the Belisle Foot Snare, you will also need to degrease and clean the trap as well as dye it. We file or deburr all around the edges of the pan, the frame of the trap, as well as the setting block, as well as the end of the bars. We also degrease and dye our anchor system as well as the snare. Now that the trap has been modified, we preset the trap to save us time at the trap location. To preset the trap, we're going to call this, with the dog and pan on the side of the trap, the working side of the trap. To preset it, you're going to want to flip your pan back and drop your setting block between the trap bars. Use gravity to hold that between the bars, the setting block, making sure your spring is on the working side of the trap. Grab the trap with your fingers on the frame and your thumbs on the spring. and squeeze it into the hooks. Flip it around and do the other side, making sure the spring is on the working side of the trap. The setting block allows for your fingers to get in between the jaws to open it. You can now open it, push it down, and use the safety to hold it in position. Flip the setting block back under, and the trap is now ready and set and can be taken to the field. We're just going to go over snare placement on the trap. Usually the snare is placed after the trap is bedded, before it is covered. It's just a little bit easier to see if we do it here on the table. So the snare cable is dropped through between these two bars and held underneath the bottom bar. It can be slightly tightened up so it goes underneath the dog. Another key part is it needs to be on the outside of these blocks. This cable can be slightly tightened, but you don't want it smaller diameter than the trap. Okay, so we've arrived to our set location. We're just going to use this table as an example. So the first thing we would do is dig our dirt hole. So we get our spade out of the trap, dig our dirt hole, do it to your preference, depth, angle, whatever works for you. There's not really a real main thing you have to do for this trap. Next thing we do is grab our hammer. And one thing I should say, all our tools go back inside the bag. We don't leave them out beside the trap location just for scent contamination purposes. So if we can try and put everything right back in. So we dig our trap bed about 10 or 12 inches from our dirt hole to the pan. That can go however you prefer also. We stay slightly off to the right or to the left. We position our trap this way with the working side of the trap to the right. If you're right-handed, if you're left, you can go to the left-hand side. It's up to you if you want to go this way or whichever way you prefer. This just works for us. So our trap bed would be here. We would dig this out, dig it down, loosen it up around where our springs would be down in. We remove the soil and put it right into our sifter, which is important. We dig out a little trench for our anchor in here. I'm not wearing gloves right now. You can. We do, if we're actually setting, wear gloves. Not so much for scent contamination, but well, I guess for whenever we use the lures, we take off our gloves and then put the lure in. It's more about speed. So if you don't need the gloves, or if the gloves are slowing you down, you probably shouldn't wear gloves. If they don't slow you down, go ahead. Whatever you prefer. So our trap would be in that location. The springs are jammed down. As you can see, they're slightly angled down. Jam the springs down in. Now we would connect our anchor to our snare. We generally do this at home so we're ready. It takes less time while we're here. The plate, just bend it, the plate goes through the loop. So we like this system with the flat plate. You can see it's fairly thick so it doesn't get bent. It acts as another swivel too. It's easy to put in and remove. And we can have this preset to save us time. The trap, I should also say, is also preset to save us time while we're here over the trap bed. So our anchor is driven in about here, just kind of a little bit of an L shape from the trap. It can be over here, it's whatever we prefer. This is just what works for us. So the anchor is driven down here with our framing hammer and our driver. We use the 24-inch anchors for coyotes. You can use whatever you prefer. This size works for us. And if you need a pre-driver to pound it down, and whatever anchor you prefer also is totally up to you. So this is drove down. We drive the anchor right down to the spring, and then we would pull it up to set the anchor. So setting the anchor means when the anchor is drove down into the ground, it's this way on the driver. We pull it up to turn it sideways to set it so it's in there well. So I'm just going to remove the snare so we can get the anchor out of the way, and we'll just imagine it is in that location. One thing with the anchor placement, you just want to make sure there's enough that you can actually get to your trap. You don't want to drive it in too far away or too close, then you have a lot of excess here. So our trap is preset. Our snare is ready to go. One thing we can do with the Belisle Foot Snare, because we have a safety on it, is we can bed it. We can bed it really well. We don't have to worry about the trap going off on us. You can also push down, power bed it. Because of safety, you can step on it even to power bed it down in. So then we're ready for our snare. Just make sure there's no rocks or sticks in this area. The snare goes through the bars of the trap and underneath, and you can actually hold it so it goes under. On the outsides of these blocks, underneath here, and then underneath your dog and safety. And we have it about this position. Our anchor would be right in that area. We use an underall, just foam. You can use wax paper or whatever you prefer. This is just, again, what works for us. The trap can be set now, and because we have a safety, we can leave it set and be ready to go. And we put our dirt back in. We sift everything to make sure there's no rocks, stones, little sticks, hard clumps. In our dirt. Anything like that's going to get caught or in the jaws of the trap and the cable. We don't want anything to hamper the trap. If it's freezing conditions, we would use wax sand for this. I wouldn't suggest using peat moss or buckwheat hulls, as they may get caught in the lock in the cable as it's being run. So we use wax sand. If you want to try the other stuff, that's fine, but this, again, is what works for us. So we would cover this up real well. Everything gets filled in. Any clumps go up at the top, if there is any, to kind of angle the animal into your trap. We get it pretty well where we want it, make sure there's no sticks or anything. Because we have a safety, we get it where we want it. Find our pan, find our safety now, remove it, just push it down, it's critical. Just cover it, we cover it about 1/4 of an inch. Because we have a safety, we just use our hands to do the kind of the feathering of the dirt. You can use a brush if you'd like. It's totally up to you. The trap now is pretty well ready to go. Last thing we would do is, if we had gloves, we would remove our gloves and then put our lure in the dirt hole. that's the end of our video. This was just going over how we set the Belisle Foot Snare and what works for us. If you have any questions or concerns, or other things that work for you that are a little bit different than us, feel free to let us know. And thank you for watching.